You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to the weekly Keep Canada Weird discussion series. If you're new here, my name is Jordan Bonaparte, and in Keep Canada Weird, my pal Aaron Airport and I seek out and explore the offbeat news stories that played out across Canada over the past week. In tonight's episode, which we recorded on May 21st of 2024, we discuss a small town in Alberta's failed attempt to break the world record for largest gathering of people dressed up as dinosaurs. We investigate the Saskatoon man who received a traffic ticket for using his phone in a McDonald's drive-thru. We're going to hear about a disturbing moose attack, and we're going to mediate the dispute between a group of homeowners in Ottawa that have basketball nets and the city's bylaw enforcement. So let's get into it. Handsome Aaron Airport. I got a tea. What do you got?
I have a crafty Radler from Pump House.
Okay, that's beer, is it?
That's like a flavored kind of Radler, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, this could get interesting. You're usually not drinking alcohol, right?
Not normally, but I didn't have much else in the fridge to kind of casually sip on through the show. Normally it's like I get some juice or some water or some can of Coke or something, but this was kind of all I had kicking around.
Is this because you're boycotting Loblaws and the only option is the Nova Scotia Liquor Commission?
I haven't gone to Loblaws since the boycott, but I have gone to Shoppers Drug Mart, which I understand is owned by the same company.
Oh, is it? Okay.
That's the thing, is they have all of their little brother and sister companies. So
yeah, they're smarter.
You're probably still shopping at Loblaws, whether you know it or not.
Yeah, well, people aren't here to complain about the price of food. They're here to hear about the weird news that has popped up over the last week, and there's been a ton of it. Before we get into the stories, though, anything new with you? Anything you want to share? I know you moved several months ago, and that's been a big deal for you and your cat. Anything to share?
No, please. Okay. I don't want to talk further about that.
Okay. Let's check in with a listener, and then we'll get to the stories. This is a unique voicemail I want to open the show with. And I'm opening the show with it because I want to appeal to the person who sent this voicemail. My appeal is that when you sent this voicemail, which was quite fascinating, you didn't include contact information. And this voicemail includes an amazing offer that I personally really want to take them up on, but without a name or an email address. It's they're dangling a carrot in front of me, and I'll never catch it.
Well, I'm excited to hear it. Yeah, let's go.
I'm telling you, given almost any moonless night, I can show you a UFO. I can almost guarantee it.
That's it.
That's it. Oh,
I can't make out his name or anything, but if you send a voicemail here saying like, I'm almost any moonless night, I can show you a UFO. I can almost guarantee it. And then hang up the phone, to someone like me, that is cruel to offer that.
Yeah. I was trying to really think about what his name was. It sounds like
maybe Dana.
I thought he said he was dying.
I'm dying.
It's like, hey, I'm dying, and I want to show you a UFO.
Let's try it once more.
I'm telling you, given almost any moonless night, I can show you a UFO. I can almost guarantee it.
And what's a moonless night? Isn't there almost always a moon?
Well, there's no such thing. I don't think.
Maybe that's the trick.
Yeah. Because the moon is always there, whether you can see it or not.
Okay, that's the issue. Either way, mysterious voicemail sender, send another one, and this time include some contact info so I can see what I've been wanting to see my whole life with your guidance.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on. That's when we get in contact with him, we'll probably have an easier job keeping Canada weird. Tonight, we're going to have to rely on the weird stories that popped up over the past week. We're going to head to Drumheller to hear about dinosaurs. We're going to travel through a McDonald's drive-thru. We'll watch along as the basketball net wars play out in Ottawa. And then we'll cower in fear at the moose attacks in Ontario. What do you want to start with here? We got a pretty wide variety.
Well, I think my two favorite stories this week are the basketball net wars
That's a good one.
and the ticket in the drive-through.
Okay.
So
Let's
I think start with one of those, end with one of those, put the rest in between.
Yeah, it's called bookending the episode. Let's do it.
Well, listen, Dr. Bonaparte. We don't need to get technical
Okay.
here. That's flying over the heads of everybody
Yeah.
who's
I
listening.
got to dumb it down for the good people out there. You're
I
right.
know, yeah.
Let's go through the McDonald's drive-thru. So I'm drinking a tea here. I never get tea at McDonald's. I always get coffee there, but I go through the drive-thru a lot. But I've never thought of this particular issue, and I'm surprised that it's taken this long for this issue to pop up in a story. A lot of people use the mobile apps, and when you go through a drive-thru, whether it's McDonald's or Tim Hortons or a billion other fast food places, they'll say something like, "Are you collecting points on the app?" But the problem is, you're in your car driving through a drive-thru. An incident at a McDonald's drive-thru in Saskatoon has shaken the drive-thru food service industry to its core. Were the police heavy-handed, or are the glory days of reward apps behind us? Listen to this.
I'm barely even moving, I'm just rolling. And I go like this to open up my McDonald's app. And I look in my rearview mirror, and there's a motorcycle cop behind me.
That happened when Mason Prima left work to get some lunch. He wanted to use up a free lunch that he had earned on his McDonald's app. The officer came to his window.
Show him, I'm like, I'm on my McDonald's app. I'm loading up the code right now to get a free meal. I did think he was just gonna let me go, because I'm just trying to get a free meal. Turns out to be a very expensive lunch.
The whole thing for Mason was contradictory since he needed the app to complete his order, a catch-22.
Yeah, I was kind of just shocked, to be honest, because I've never had that before. I open my app up every time I go to the drive-thru.
And the reason it's shocking, according to a local criminal defense lawyer, is that there is a lot of gray area when it comes to technology in the law.
I feel for the individual that got charged here. If he was just literally, in fact, in a drive-through area, not on a public roadway.
Feverly admits he doesn't have all the particulars in this case, but says having an officer catching cell phone users in a drive-through doesn't seem to be a good use of resources for police.
I would venture to guess that a great majority of people would utilize their cell phones in lineups such as that. Probably shouldn't be considered illegal, but it's obviously debatable.
He says cell phone use is clearly dangerous, but questions the circumstances here.
I didn't have my foot on the gas or brake. It was just rolling, like barely moving.
The ticket amount is $580, which for this 18-year-old is a hefty amount, but he's most concerned about the demerits off his license. We reached out to Saskatoon police, who said without knowing all particulars, they couldn't comment on this case. Prima feels strongly that he should not have to pay this ticket, and he's prepared to fight it in court. That date is set for July 31st.
So I think this is an interesting one here. Do you before we start, let me just ask you, do you think there are two sides to the story, or are you buying the way he's selling it?
I'm buying roughly 80 to 90% of what he's saying.
Okay.
But I have a lot to say about this story. I have a lot,
Okay.
emotionally, I connect with the young man. I think that it is a waste, as they say in the news story, it's a waste of resources to be bothering to give someone a ticket while they're in the drive-through using their cell phone.
Unless that's some extenuating circumstance. Like that's why I'm like, is there more to the story?
Yeah.
Like if he was doing something crazy, I could get it. But if he's literally just in the drive-through moving his way up, come on. But go on. I derailed.
No. He made his biggest mistake, I think, is what happened, what he said on record now in the news clip. He said, I didn't have my foot on the gas or the pedal. I was just kind of barely moving, taking the app out and taking his phone out and then going into his phone. So now he does not have a leg to stand on in a court of law, because basically it's going to boil down to, was the vehicle moving when you took your phone out to access the app?
Yeah.
If it was moving even at a snail's pace in the drive-thru, and he
Mhm.
says he didn't have his foot on the brake or anything. He was just letting it cruise a little bit
Yeah.
as he's going through the drive-thru, and he's taking out the phone and accessing the app.
Yeah, and he says he's going to fight it. I can hear the crowd now, like Exhibit A, the news.
Exhibit
It's
A,
like
yourself.
on the news.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's funny is this isn't the first time tonight we're going to hear a story where the truth or like the be all end all of the story is going to accidentally just kind of flop out in the story.
Mhm.
I think I thought the same thing when I watched the story about this guy. I thought he may have a case if he's like stopped in the drive-through. You could argue that you were parked or whatever,
Yeah.
but if you're not moving, you're just coasting. Like I don't have my foot on the brake or the gas. That's a pretty big omission to make in the telling of the story.
I
Because
know
that,
it could have been totally he said kind of an argument in court, and the judge could have been like, you know what, like unless we have any witnesses present that can clarify exactly what was happening in the moment, and maybe you have several witnesses, some employees, some other drivers that were there, um, that could paint the picture for the judge, then that's different. I don't know what will be presented in court when he fights this. Usually for a small ticket like this, you're not you're not coming out guns a blazing. You're just kind of showing up and saying, "Yeah, but I shouldn't have this ticket."
I think it will come down to the exact wording of that law, and I imagine it's something to the effect of you can't use a handheld communication device like a cell phone while operating a vehicle. So
Hmm.
if he could say I had it in park, I wasn't operating the vehicle, you're all
Yeah.
good. But yeah, you just lost your case, buddy. Pay the $580. But what about this? Aside from this specific story, are you like shocked that this hasn't come up yet? Like people all the time are using their phones in drive-throughs.
You're right. I'm surprised that this hasn't come
Mhm.
up already, but at the same time, I'm surprised that there was a police officer who actually enforced it and pulled the trigger on issuing somebody a ticket in the middle of a drive-through.
Yeah.
Even though the young man has pretty much poked a hole in his own case already by publicly stating that he didn't even have his foot on the gas or the brake.
It's a
But
confession.
it's a confession. Yeah, it's a damning one. But I think that if he didn't say that, then he could argue that companies are encouraging us to use these apps in the drive-throughs,
Hmm.
and there's been no public safety protocols or instructions put in place on how to safely use the apps
Hmm.
within drive-throughs. So I think you could play around with a pretty cool argument there, that and put the blame on the companies and force them to put up signage now in all of the different drive-throughs all over the world on how to when and where and how to safely access your app while in a drive-through.
Yeah, and like if he is going to fight the ticket, can you imagine the moment when he like subpoenas like the CEO of McDonald's to take the stand?
Mhm.
That could be interesting. This could be the trial of the century.
But the biggest problem with the whole thing is that he said that he didn't have his foot on the friggin' gas or the friggin' brake. You friggin' idiot.
Yeah, blew it. Okay, let's move to something completely different. Let's travel back in time from the era of cell phones to the era and land of dinosaurs. That'll be my transition. Have you ever heard of Drumheller, Alberta?
No, no. When I was reading the story earlier today, I was like, Drumheller, where is that?
It is famous currently, I guess famous. It's on some map currently for being home to the world's largest dinosaur. There's a sort of roadside attraction that's the world's largest dinosaur. It's 25 meters tall. You can go inside it and climb to the top and look out the dinosaur's mouth and see, I guess, all of Drumheller. It's an area known for lots of fossils. When you look at like video and photos of the town, you can kind of see why it's kind of lots of like mountains and rock, and of course it'd be somewhere that would be have a lot of fossils. So they have a bit of a connection to dinosaurs, and maybe that's why the town of Drumheller hoped to get themselves in the Guinness Book of World Records, specifically for the largest gathering of people dressed as dinosaurs. This story comes to us from a listener named Brianna. I'm going to play you her voicemail,
Okay.
and then we'll
All
listen
right.
to the story.
Hi, guys. My name is Brianna. I'm a little bit behind on episodes, so I'm not sure if you guys have covered this or not, but I had a topic suggestion that I heard recently on the radio. I guess there was a Guinness World Record attempted to be broken where you get as many people as possible to dress up as dinosaurs in one area, but they didn't end up giving them the record because too many people showed up dressed as dinosaurs. So I just figured that would be a fun topic to discuss.
Here's a look at the Jurassic Jamboree.
People came from all over North America to help with the Titanosaurus task. So many dinosaurs here, mostly of the T-Rex variety or a close relative, the Albertosaurus.
It's fun. Everybody should do it once in their life, eh? It gets you out enjoying the day.
I hope we break the world record. This is just awesome. I'm so glad they put this on out here. This is our territory. This is dinosaur land.
There were hula dinos and baby dinos and dog dinos, but this herd likely triceratops the previous record. Last year, an unofficial record was set in Dundurn, Saskatchewan, when around 1,100 people got together dressed as dinosaurs.
The official results won't be known for a couple of days, but the town ran out of 3,000 bracelets for people dressed up as dinosaurs, so it's safe to assume they smashed the old record. The Cretaceous Carnival continues on into the evening, so people will be partying late, or until one of those pesky asteroids crashes the party. Carolyn Curry de Castillo, Global News.
That seems like quite a party. Although it's a weird sight to see everyone in, they're almost in identical costumes. It seems like most people are wearing that, I call it like inflatable costume, where you're kind of standing in a big bag shaped like a dinosaur. What you see in the news clip there is just, I guess, thousands of people partying, being a little crazy, all dressed as the same dinosaur.
Yeah, when the inflatable costume technology seemed to have really increased and developed over the past 5 to 10 years, you see those inflatable dinosaur costumes everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think every second household has an inflatable dinosaur costume now. But
Mm-hmm.
it's an impressive feat. It's completely useless, and
well, it's something we talk about on occasion, is this idea of like a town finding this little thing about itself to become its, I don't know, its claim to fame. Like we had the weird potato guy in New Brunswick, the world's largest hockey stick we talked about a few years back or a few months back. I don't know. But there's these things like this all over the place. It seems like Drumheller is hoping to make dinosaurs their thing, and it was going to be through this Jurassic Jamboree. But what you don't hear in that clip is that the whole thing fails. The way that news clip ends is that it was going to take some time for them to do the tally and figure out if they broke the record. People in that town were waiting to hear, like, did we do it? Are we going to be in the Guinness Book of World Records? After a couple days, the town made a post on Facebook that shared the rather sad news. If you have it in front of you, you can read it there. If not, I will.
yeah, I've got it in front of me here. Due to the high volume of dinosaurs, we could not obtain an exact measurement to officially break the Guinness World Records title for the largest gathering of people dressed as dinosaurs. We are incredibly proud of what we accomplished with over 3,000 dinosaurs in attendance at the Jurassic Jamboree, even though we didn't achieve our goal of officially breaking the Guinness World Records title. The support and enthusiasm from everyone who attended was truly inspiring, and we are grateful to everyone who participated and contributed to the event's success. This isn't the only chance. We will attempt to break the record again in the future, and the Jurassic Jamboree will now be an annual event.
So it seems like what happened is, like, the Guinness Book of World Records, they're very particular, of course, about how the numbers are qualified, and it needs to be very carefully measured before they're going to put you in there. But I guess what had happened is they didn't have a way to calculate exactly how many people were there at one time dressed as dinosaurs. Because of that, the Guinness Book of World Records said, "Nuh-uh, not good." The record is still 252 people in 2019 in Los Angeles.
That's the thing. If you're going for a world record in the, especially through Guinness, you have to really understand all of the I's dotted and the T's crossed, because to go through the trouble of organizing an event and then not making sure that you have all your ducks in a row, it doesn't matter how many people showed up. It's all, I'm not going to say all for a waste. I'm sure it was a fun event, but I mean, again, if you're going to state we're going for the record, just understand what the record is and then go for it.
Yeah, it's a good point. It was probably a good time. It's kind of like Halloween, except everyone has the same costume on and the costume covers your face. So there was probably some confusing moments trying to figure out who is who when you're all wearing like basically the same costume.
You think somebody took the wrong kid home?
Yeah, and the wrong wife home and the wrong husband home.
Families are all scrambled and mixed up now.
Let's move on to a much darker story, but also a story that involves horrific beasts like Tyrannosaurus Rex type dinosaurs. We've talked until we were blue in the face about the evidence we see across this country and across this world during this time of the animal uprising. That is specifically a phenomena we've spotted over the last 2 years in which incidents related to animals intentionally harming humans for reasons we've yet to be able to completely understand are happening at an alarming pace. The frequency and severity are increasing. The latest stone in that war has been thrown, and it's been thrown in Ontario. In a way, it's laughable. In a way, what it may mean is completely horrifying. I have a news article here. Maybe I'll invite you to read this one as well. I love your reading voice.
Okay. An ambulance collided with a moose early Sunday as it responded to another crash, also involving a moose, Ontario Provincial Police say. The first crash was reported just after 1 a.m. on in Algonquin Park. A vehicle struck a moose, resulting in it leaving the roadway and hitting a tree. 2 people were injured in the initial crash, one of whom was reported to have life-threatening injuries. A Muskoka Paramedic Service ambulance responding to the scene also collided with a moose, resulting in extensive damage, but no injuries. Highway 60 was closed in the area as officers investigated. OPP said the officers responding to the first collision had also just finished investigating another crash between a car and a moose, but there were no serious injuries at that incident. The OPP warns motorists that an increasing number of moose have been coming out of the forest and onto roads, particularly in the area of Algonquin Park, in an effort to escape from swarms of insects. The animals are turning against each other. The insects are going after the moose.
Well, moose are delicious.
But also, are insects part of the animal uprising? Because they're insects and not animals.
Yeah, I don't know if we've been able to tackle that yet to really understand what's going on with them and where the lines are and the allegiances lay. But
yeah. I mean, maybe they have the same goals, but maybe they disagree in how they want to achieve those goals.
If the insects are driving the moose into the roadways, is it fair to call this a moose attack, or is this the insect plot?
I think this is a sub uprising, the insects uprising, and they're using the moose as weapons. Absolutely.
Oh my God. So just to set the scene here. So imagine this. You're the cop and for people who like international listeners, especially international Naughty by Nature fans that are listening, the OPP is the Ontario Provincial Police. So an Ontario Provincial Police officer is in the Algonquin Park area of Ontario responding to a collision involving a moose. Shortly after that, there's another collision involving a moose that cop goes to respond to that has an injury that's life-threatening. The ambulance on the way to pick up the person with the life-threatening injury hits a moose. So there are 3 moose collisions, all requiring like emergency responders that are tied between these 3 events. I've heard of people hitting moose and hitting deer, like that happens, but to have 3 right in the same time like that.
And for any international listeners that have never been near a moose before, They are massive, massive creatures, and they
Hell
are
yeah.
dense and muscly, thick. And if you hit one with a vehicle, like say goodbye to your vehicle.
Oh yeah, as the moose walks off unfazed. Like
Unfazed, yeah.
they're huge beasts. It's bigger than a deer, bigger than a horse. They're just gigantic. And if you hit one of these things, it would be like hitting a brick wall. So if you're cruising down the highway and you hit one, like, oh, you could be done. These people are lucky. But yeah, I think the big, from what we know about this story, the big question now is what caused it? Is this an insect attack? And if so, why? Is it a moose attack? And if so, why? Well, actually, I think we know why if it's a moose attack. But now that I think of it, yeah, I'm leaning towards insects behind this ultimately.
Oh, 100%. It's the insects. They're swarming the moose, and soon they'll be swarming us. Well, they do swarm us all the time. I get swarmed by insects daily.
Well, that's it's a geographical thing. Like when I go home to Cape Breton, I find I see so many like little black flies and horse flies and different bugs and stuff everywhere. Here in Halifax, like I never have problems with mosquitoes
Yeah.
or that sort of. It might like I could go out in my grass right now and just lay there all day and I wouldn't get bit by a fly. I go to Cape Breton and it's like I don't even want to leave the house because I'm just like I'll have my hood up like swatting at them. And God forbid June bugs. Like we're like days
We're
away.
heading right into June bug
Yeah.
season.
And I'm sure we're going to get into that. Do you want to open the doors right now to voicemails about June bug stories? Because I bet you people got them.
Yeah, let's bring them on. There's nothing I'd rather more in the world than to spend my entire June talking about June bugs with you and the listeners.
I would be curious. Like I feel like June bug may be a colloquialism. Like I think that's probably something we on the East Coast call these specific bugs. They're large beetles that come out of the ground in June, and they typically just kind of come out at night and just fly around. I think they're blind and they just kind of fly towards light. So if you have like your front light on your house, like on your porch or something, they're just kind of like flying around, smacking into your windows and your siding, and they're just disgusting beasts. But if you're like out at night in June, like these things will fly right into your face and they're just disgusting. And God forbid you
Oh,
walk on one.
they're so big. They're in my emotionally for me, they're bigger than moose because the insects shouldn't be that big and juicy, you know.
Yeah.
And
Well,
when they
and
hit you,
crunchy.
it's the sound when they hit you, it's
Don't
just
try to make it.
this crack that on your flesh.
Hmm.
And it's just horrible. And then it buzzes around like, and it just makes this loud, like, oh my God, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, so for any listeners who want to talk June bugs, go to nighttimepodcast.com/contact and send us a voicemail and just whatever you want to say about June bugs. We're a safe place to get into it. We'd love to hear about it. And even if we're just there for support, we'll take it. Let's get on to the next story. This is the final story of the night, and there's a lot of moving parts to it. And it's interesting. I don't know how to set this up because it actually involves two other stories we've talked about. So earlier, we talked about the McDonald's drive-thru that had a confession in it. I feel like this story may have a bit of a confession. But most of all, I think a Keep Canada Weird correspondent almost like inceptioned this story into happening. I want to play you a voicemail by a listener named Erica, who was giving some comments on a prior story we talked about rats 2 weeks ago, I believe, and specifically about people complaining to the city about rat problems. I'm going to play her voicemail, and then I want to introduce the story because I think like what she's saying in her voicemail, she's calling this whole situation. Listen to this. Here's Erica.
Hey, Jordan. Hey, Aaron. It's Erica with another dispatch from the Vancouver Island Outpost. I am listening to the story about the rat infestations in various places, and really jumped out at me when that one feller said that the municipality should do something about it. As soon as you start asking your local council to do something about it, you are looking at increased enforcement. And we see this kind of stuff all the time with things like speeding, with bears getting into garbage. Generally, there will be an uptick in enforcement revenue when something like this happens. So the fact of the matter is the rats are where the food and the habitat is. So that means any of his neighbors with any degree of shelter and food sourcing for those rats are now going to be subject to some kind of bylaw enforcement if they're unable or unwilling to deal with it. And I think it's really important that people just put on their big boy pants and figure out a way to deal with the rat. Asking your city council to do something about something that you can easily avail yourself of information on the internet to solve seems vastly superior to increased government oversight. And that's my 2 cents for the week. Take it easy.
So the message, ultimately under the message that Erica gives, is that if there's an issue and you can deal with it, you just deal with it. Because if you open Pandora's box of calling in a complaint to the city or whatever, and you get the bylaw enforcement people coming snooping around your neighborhood, it's only going to result in trouble. But aside from the specifics of the rat issue, I think what she's saying applies to this next story. Listen to this story, and then as we go through it, we'll think about some of the stuff Erica had to say. So what we're talking about is not rats, but basketball nets. With all the civil unrest in our country, it's not surprising that Ottawa has found itself home to many political, cultural, and ideological battles. But the one playing out right now is a little unexpected. Ground Zero is an upper middle class street in Stittsville, and the battle is being fought between the city's bylaw enforcement officers and people with basketball nets. Listen to this.
A rude awakening Friday when residents here got a visit from their neighborhood bylaw officer.
It says, move basketball net off roadway.
Christopher Ray is one of several homeowners on Kernsley Way that was ticketed for having a basketball net too close to the road. He was told it was Miller Waste Systems that complained.
If you're a professional truck driver and you can't drive a truck around that, I think something needs to be asked in terms of questions.
I don't think the crime fit the punishment. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's pretty silly of them.
And shooting hoops with the net now over the driveway just isn't the same.
It falls down and hits you, and it really hurts because it's hard.
It can be a challenge to get kids to play outside as is, now with added hoops to jump through.
To me, it's really unfortunate.
According to the City of Ottawa, the use and care of roads bylaw prohibits people from leaving basketball or hockey nets on the road or on the city's right-of-way.
Obviously, it's not on the roadway. It does overhang by maybe a few inches. I came home, it was crooked.
A few weeks ago, Rob Lafleur noticed his net had been hit by a waste collection truck. He believes his complaint to the company is what spurred them to call bylaw.
Just kind of steamrolled into something that probably shouldn't have got to this point. I think it was handled in bad taste, in my opinion.
Homeowners with nets living beyond Kernsley Way told CTV News off camera they haven't received any tickets for their nets hanging over the street. That lack of consistency and lack of solution, putting a damper on the start of summer.
I'd just like to be told where I can put this so my son can play basketball without having to move a 400-pound net every single day for a garbage man who comes 30 seconds a week.
I can see your wheels turning there. There's a lot to say about this story. Now, where do you want to start with it?
I want to start with the incredibly one-sided approach that the news organization took and the reporter took in telling the story.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of one-sided takes. This has got to be one of the worst. They lay it heavy on Miller Waste Services and just gloss over the fact that it all started because some guy in the neighborhood complained to them, probably trying to get them to pay for his net that he left on the street. I think Miller Waste Service was they're partially victims in this, probably more so than any of the people we hear there.
Miller Waste is the victim in this. There are no other victims. This is nonsense. This is complete and utter nonsense and entitlement happening here by these neighbors. It's like, oh, well, I don't know where I can put my basketball net. I mean, where should I going to put my basketball net? Put it in your yard. And if you don't have room for it, don't own a basketball net.
He also says, I got to move a 400-pound net every time my kid wants to play basketball. For one, the nets don't weigh 400 pounds. And why do you got to move it every time? They're just saying, the bylaws, it can't overhang the road. And the reason it can't is because if the garbage truck hits your net, fools like Rob LaFleur are going to call up there. I'd love to hear his phone call, but because I bet you he just like Karen'd out on them, like, you got to pay for my net. And
Yeah, that's a 400-pound net. It's the most expensive.
yeah, and and all that happened, the other side of this too, and they're all complaining in the news about this. One person even says the crime doesn't fit the punishment. Nobody got fines. They just got like a written warning kind of thing from the bylaw people saying like, move your net back so it doesn't overhang. So there's no punishment. They just got reminded of what the bylaw is. Some of the people are willfully stupid. Like, I don't even know where I can put my net now. It's completely clear. It just can't overhang.
Your yard.
Just
Keep
not
it
like
in
on the
your
road.
yard, man. Like the phrase, like keep it in your pants. Like just keep the basketball net in your yard, and
your yard.
everything will be okay. You're not going to get an STI.
Sure. I thought you would feel the same way. I was when I found this story, I was shocked by this, how ridiculous it was. They had nothing to complain about, but it didn't stop them all, one after the other, acting like the city was heavy-handed, like Miller Waste was like these pussies who like
evil Miller Waste are just sitting there trying to rid the world of basketball nets and children's fun. They even these people, and I use that
if you even
term
want to call them that
loosely,
right?
with these
gremlins,
these monsters, but they use their own children to have some kind of a veiled half-assed attempt of a sob story where the child they're interviewing the child and the reporter is just playing along with all of it because they have some kind of a political stake in this too. I'm sure their basketball net was destroyed by Miller Disposal, whoever it is.
Yeah.
So like the child is like, yeah, so now with the basketball net's not allowed to hang over. Now the ball drops down and like rolls over there or whatever. And
it's the curve.
And then you can hear the father whispering, no, say it falls on your head now, and say your neck is sore and now you can't go to school and you'll never be a basketball player ever in your life.
Mm-hmm. Also, whenever anything like this happens, someone is going to say, it's hard enough to get kids outside the door to play outside nowadays. We get our kids outside to play basketball, and now the city is doing this. Everyone ignoring the fact that it all started because Rob LaFleur on the street went after Miller Waste for hitting his net, which was where it shouldn't have been. I would love to hear that phone call and have, the end of the news clip. And it's like, and this is what Mr. LaFleur said when he, called Miller Waste. Like, there's so much more to that. And even Mr. LaFleur in the news clip, he's kind of like, the way this all unfolded, I'm really, I think it was really disappointed in how they handled it. They handled it how you would. If you go after this waste management garbage truck company about this, they would just call the city like, yeah, we got to go down there, but like our trucks can't get through and they're coming after us trying to get us to replace their nets or whatever you got to deal with that. It's the way the world works.
Take away the garbage collection, take it away, and we'll see how much they love basketball then.
But now just to get back for one moment to Erica's voicemail. Replace basketball nets with, I don't know, piles of wood for your fire pit that you keep in your backyard. Someone down the street, Rob LaFleur, calls whoever to complain that there's a bunch of rats. And next thing you know, you got bylaw knocking on every door being like, you got to clean up your yard. You got to move this thing out of here, move that out of there. I see Erica's point in that initial voicemail is that you open Pandora's box when you don't just deal with it. If Rob LaFleur had just been like, oh crap, like I shouldn't have had my basketball net where the garbage truck would hit it, all these people would still have their basketball nets hanging over the edge of the street or whatever, and there'd be no problem. He opened Pandora's box when he called in that complaint, and what did he get? He got a neighborhood drowned in bylaw enforcement officers.
And the problem is, and the reason that bylaws are there to begin with is because of the Rob LaFleurs. Because
exactly.
There are people who love to hang their basketball nets well past their driveways and into the road and feel it's their God-given right to be basketball net hangers. And because of these people, the city has to then enforce these laws so that people who refuse to use common sense and try to blame the waste disposal companies, who I am very thankful for, and I praise the hard work that they do to collect our waste and take it, to the dump and help us with that. Those are the people that I side with. And that's why I'm thankful for bylaws and bylaw enforcement, so that the waste disposal companies have a tool in their back pocket. It's like, okay, well, you're going to try and get us to pay for your basketball net. You're going to not stop hanging your basketball net over the sidewalk. We're going to call the municipality on you.
Mm-hmm. I support the municipality and Miller Waste in this situation, 100%. That people in that community should be complaining about Rob LaFleur, not about bylaw enforcement or Miller Waste. We all agree. I think if anyone listening disagrees, I would like to hear a case made against the bylaw in this particular case. If you have it, if you have that opinion, go to nighttimepodcast.com/contact and say your piece.
Agreed.
Aaron, I think we've done it tonight. We've gone to Alberta. We've traveled through time. We went through a drive-thru. We got a ticket. We saw a war play out about basketball nets. And yeah, we even heard a story about insects using moose to try to kill a bunch of people. I don't think there's really much else to say.
It doesn't get weirder than that, does it?
Mm-mm. But you know what? There's a lot more weird to go around. The Keep Canada Weird correspondents out there across the country and beyond have been coming out in numbers to share stories with us, to weigh in and give opinions or present theories. To thank them for their voice memos, I've been sending out Keep Canada Weird swag packs that include Keep Canada Weird badges, that name them as official correspondents of the show. We have a lot of voicemails, more than we can air tonight and more than we could air last week. What do you think we should do?
I think we need to collect all of these voicemails into one mega episode
called the Keep Canada Weird Mailbag. I think that's what I'll go with. We have, it won't be a special episode. I think it's going to be kind of an ongoing thing. We are committed to airing every voicemail we get. Some are a little long. Some of them don't necessarily fit into the show. So what we're going to do is once the voicemails build up to a point that we have, 10 or something that haven't made it onto the show, we're going to do a separate episode called the Keep Canada Weird Mailbag, where we're just going to go through the voicemails we get. And yes, if your voicemail makes it to the mailbag, you still get the swag pack. You just email me at nighttimepodcast@gmail.com when you heard your voice on the show, and I will send you out something as a thank you. I don't think we need to set up the mailbag any more than that.
Although maybe a better name for the show.
I already made the cover art.
Yeah, but just think of this. Just hear me out for a second. This might be worth a last minute change. Okay. Instead of calling it the Keep Canada Weird Mailbag, why don't we just call it the Keep Canada Weird Bag? And then that way, every time you go to listen to the episode, you don't know what you're going to hear because anything could be in the bag. And yeah, that's my case.
Okay, I'll think about that. But to all the listeners out there, I'll let them know that I'm not going to think very hard about it because I already made the cover art.
Because Santa Claus has a bag, and that has all different surprises for all the children all over the world to enjoy on Christmas morning. And the Keep Canada Weird bag should be filled with all different types of surprises for
but it's
listeners.
But it's all mail though, just to be clear.
Well, it's not going to be our fault if every week it just so happens to be mail. But the thing is that it's always still at the start of the episode a mystery of what is in the Keep Canada Weird bag this week.
Okay.
So we will officially now be changing the name to Keep Canada Weird Bag.
Well, we'll see. But anyway, Keep coming with the voicemails. We love them, and we will air all of them. And now, thanks to the Keep Canada Weird mailbag, whatever we settle on.
That should be the theme music too. Just like bag, bag.
We'll see about that too.
I'm coming up with gold here, man. How come you're not writing any of this down?
We'll see where we go with all this. But regardless, your voice will be heard if you have something to tell us. So don't hesitate going to nighttimepodcast.com/contact and saying your piece. But with all that said, we got to wrap it up here, Aaron.
Let's wrap it up.
Handsome Aaron Airport. Till next time.
Jordan, until next time.
I don't like the inflatable costumes. I still have a thing for the olden days, the 70s and 80s, where you just had like the thin plastic thing with the string that you'd pull over your face. They look so creepy and so cool, and they're cheap and they're fun. These like inflatable huge costumes where you just waddle around like this monstrosity of foolishness. I can't get into it.
And Jordan, until next time, bag, bag,
okay,
bag, mystery bag. What's in the bag? It's a bag. More bags.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mission to keep Canada weird, but let us also call out to you for even greater support in this. If something weird happens in your neck of the woods, let us know about it. As well, if you have any thoughts, theories, or opinions on anything we talked about tonight, we want to hear about that as well. The best way to reach us is by sending a voice memo using the built-in app that can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. We're excited to hear from you. Now, before we part here tonight, let me end with some thanks. First, a big thanks to Aaron for sharing another evening with me and with you, the listeners of Nighttime. A big shout out to the internet's favorite cult leader, Nicole, who provides the intro and outro voiceovers for this show. And then lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. Now, on the topic of support, let me thank the newest subscribers to the premium feed. Kaylee, Mark, and Jeff, thank you for your generous support. If anyone else would like to support the show, you can help us out here in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs just a couple dollars a month, and that money will fund the creation of new episodes of the show. But the premium feed will also give you those episodes 2 days early, give them to you ad-free, and give you access to a full back catalog of episodes. That sounds like something you're interested in, you can go premium right now at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support this show by simply sharing this episode on social media and letting all your like-minded friends know why they should listen. Your support in growing this is very much appreciated. Now, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, let me know if you see anything weird.
Keep Canada Weird is written, hosted, and produced by the Nighttime Podcast.